this, which are not even mentioned by the classical Greek writers, remind us what we must have lost in the most famous of these statues of athletes, such as Discobolos, discus thrower, by the Athenian sculptor Myron, who probably belonged to the same generation as Phaedrus. Various copies of this work have been found, which allow us at least to form a general idea of what it looked like. Figure 55, the young athlete was represented as at the moment when he is just about to hurl the heavy discus. He has bent down and swung his arm backwards so as to be able to throw with greater force. At the next moment, he will spin round and let fly, supporting the throw with a turn of his body. The attitude looks so convincing that modern athletes have taken it for a model and have tried to learn from it the exact Greek style of throwing the discus. But this has proved less easy than they have hoped. They had forgotten that Myron's statue is not a still from a sports film, but a Greek work of art. In fact, if we look at it more carefully, we shall find that Myron has achieved his astonishing effect of movement, mainly through a new adaptation of very ancient artistic methods. Standing in front of the statue and thinking only of its outlines, we become suddenly aware of its relation to the tradition of Egyptian art. Like Egyptian painters, Myron has given us the trunk in front of view, the legs and arms in side view. Like them, he has composed his picture of a man's body out of the most characteristic views of its parts. Under his hands, this old and outworn formula has become something entirely different. Instead of fitting these views together into an unconvincing likeness of a rigid pose, he asked the real model to take up a similar attitude, and so adapted it that it seems like a convincing representation of a body in motion. Whether or not this corresponds to the exact movement most suitable for throwing the discus is hardly relevant. What matters is that Myron conquered movement just as the painters of his time conquered space. Of all Greek originals which have come down to us, the sculptures from the Parthenon perhaps reflect this new freedom in the most wonderful way. The Parthenon, figure 50, was completed some 20 years after the Temple of Olympia, and in that brief span of time, artists had acquired an even greater ease and facility in solving the problems of convincing representation. We do not know who the sculptors were who made these decorations of the temple, but as Phaedrus made the statue of Athene in the shrine, it seems likely that his workshop also provided the other sculptures. Figure 56 and 57 show fragments of the long band of frieze that ran high up around the inside of the building and represented the annual procession on the solemn festival of the goddess. There were always games and sports displays during these festivities, one of which consisted in the dangerous feat of driving a chariot and jumping on and off while the 4 horses galloped along. It is such a display that it is shown in figure 56. The 4 horses galloped along. It is such a display. At first, it may be difficult to find one's way about on this fragment because the relief is very badly damaged. Not only is part of the surface broken off, but the whole of the color has gone, which probably made the figure stand out brightly against an intensely colored background. To us, the color and texture of fine marble is something so wonderful that we would never want to cover it with paint. But the Greeks even painted their temples with strong contrasting colors such as red and blue. But however little may be left of the original work, it is always worthwhile with Greek sculptures to try to forget what is not there for the sheer joy of discovering what is left. The first we see in our fragment is the horses, 4 of them, one behind the other. Their heads and their legs are sufficiently well preserved to give us an idea of the mastery with which the artists contrived to show the structures of the whole bones and muscles without the whole looking stiff or dry.